Welcome to Small Biz, Big Wins, where every episode is a new journey into the heart of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Summer Poquette, here to navigate the thrilling world of small business with you. Each week, we dive into the inspiring stories and joyful triumphs of real business owners. Get ready to be empowered with actionable advice and, most importantly, celebrate the spirit of small business. Let's dive into how every small victory shapes your big success. This is Small Biz, Big Wins. Let's make it happen. Welcome back to another episode of Small Biz, Big Wins. I'm your host, Summer Poquette, and today I have a special treat for you. Today I have some of my team members here who are digital media specialists, and they manage anywhere between 4, 7, some of them 8 or 9 social media accounts for our clients. And so to say they are busy is an understatement. And we have actually driven down to Brighton, Michigan. We are at the Speak Easy podcast studio in downtown Brighton. And I'm excited to really quiz my team today about all things digital media. And I want to ask their advice on how they manage accounts, their favorite things they like about the job, the things they don't like about the job, some challenges they've had working with social media, certain accounts, how they've overcome those challenges, and really give advice to small business owners looking to hire an agency or to manage their own social media. Because we have a lot of DIYers out there listening that don't have the means to necessarily hire an agency and are looking for advice. And so today I have in the studio with me, I have Maddie Shelton. Give a shout out to Maddie. Maddie, how long have you been with Keep It Real Social?
2 years.
2 years. That's a long time. And then we have Aaron Garms. Give a shout out to Aaron.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah. And how long have you been with Keep It Real Social?
2 years, I think to the day.
Today.
Actually,
Today is your 2-year anniversary, your work-iversary. Right. Awesome. Yeah. And then we have Megan Stewart. Shout out to Megan.
Hey.
Yeah. And Megan, you're new to Keep It Real Social.
New,
yeah. But you're not new to social media marketing, which is awesome. Yeah. So, yeah. But you've been with us for a couple months.
Yeah, December.
Yeah. So, and we'll be celebrating your 2-year before we even know it. Mm-hmm. I know. I'm excited. So, well, everyone, let's dive right in because I have a lot of questions and we've discussed some of these. I'm not going to lie. We, went over them as a group, but, Maddie here is, for those of you listening that are new to Keep It Real Social, we are based in Petoskey, Michigan, and we have a satellite office here in Brighton, Michigan, and Maddie works out of her home and also remotely from the Lighthouse. The Lighthouse is a co-working space in Brighton, Michigan, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Mm-hmm. It has event space. It has space for offices to rent, for groups, for individuals who need just a space for the day or the week or the month. So it's a really beautiful space. So we all drove down from Petoskey, Michigan to Brighton, Michigan, about 3.5, 4 hours with Aaron driving. And he drove us fast. He got us here and in one piece. Yeah. And so anyhow, we had a chance on the way down here to talk a little bit about some of these questions, but we sent them to you, so we're not springing anything on you. But the first question I have for all of you digital media specialists right here at Keep It Real Social is, how do you go about, or how do we as an agency go about tailoring digital media content for a client on different platforms? So we have some clients who they're on 1 or 2 platforms. Some are on 3, 4, 5. And they have different audiences on different platforms. So how do you go about when you are creating content and we're working on a digital media strategy to tailor that for the different platforms? Who wants to take this one?
Well, I think it really starts with research. You have to research not only the platforms, but the client, their audience, what they respond well to. And it's an ongoing thing of checking those analytics and making sure that the content is resonating with them.
Sure. And, if you schedule something on Facebook and you have a link, you can't do that for Instagram. Mm-hmm. So you're also tailoring it for what the platform actually allows. So if you're a small business owner listening and you're just like, I'm going to put it out on Facebook and I'm just going to cross post it to Instagram, you've got to tweak that content so that it's actually for Instagram and the platform, because
And even within that platform, you're going from, static images or links to stories and reels, you're incorporating music or hashtags or
sure.
a lot of different aspects. So even within one platform, you can tailor it to
Yeah.
a specific part of that platform.
Yeah, which is something at Keep It Real Social we don't just do. We don't just cross post, without adding. If we cross post something, we've tweaked it for that platform, right? So if we have great content in a photo that we're putting out on Google Business with a call to action, it might look completely different for Facebook.
Right.
So we're definitely tailoring that. So anyone listening go ahead, Aaron.
Even getting the content, if you're going vertical video versus horizontal video, depending on what you're doing with the content ahead of time, really kind of affects how you're going to put it on that platform later on.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's a good point.
Yeah. And every platform has different image size requirements as
Right.
well, right? And let's say you have an awesome video that you're going to post on Facebook. You can't, and it's, a minute long, you can't post that on Google Business. So, you have to think about that content and how you're going to change that for each platform. So, any other tips or tricks for any small businesses listening who are like, okay, I want to post one thing to one platform and just have it go to everything?
You got to work with the lowest common denominator. If one of the platforms you're using can only handle a certain size image and the other ones can handle a bigger image, you got to go with the one that's the smallest size.
Yeah,
So that it works for everybody.
Well,
Or
and-
have a different image for each one when you post it.
absolutely.
I think maybe you start with the platform that your target audience is on. And then from
Yeah, that's a good
there, tailor it to them. And then from there, tweak it for the other platforms.
Absolutely. And I think this is a really great point for anyone listening. You do not need to be on every platform. What I want you to do if you're listening is to find the platform that your ideal avatar, your ideal customer is on, and that's the platform you start with. And so if it's Facebook, because that's where your audience is, then that's where you start crafting the content and you really get to know Facebook, that platform, what's working, what's not working before you take on another platform and just baby step it. Because if you jump all in, you're most likely not going to be able to swim.
Right.
Well, and if you're on all those platforms, which ones, go back and look and see which ones are working for you and which ones aren't
Absolutely.
resonating. Are you spending too much time on the ones
Yep.
that aren't reaching your ideal clients?
For sure. Which brings me to my next question. And Megan, you kind of hinted towards this, and Aaron, you just said something about seeing what's working, but data, analytics. So how do you every day in your job look at the analytics and use the analytics to help you create better content for the clients so that their ideal customer sees what you are producing?
Well, it's definitely, I think a lot of people think that you just look at it once and then you're good. You have to look at it consistently because it changes often. Look at what content is performing well, what's getting high engagement, and then build on that. If something flops and isn't doing well, then steer away from that.
Yeah.
But keep experimenting.
Yeah.
You got to feed the analytics a little bit. If you're only doing one thing, you're not going to get that variety of data that you need to see if something else works.
Yeah.
If people in a picture are working for you, you got to try that out. But don't just do people at that
Right.
point. Show their product, show the environment, everything around that.
Absolutely.
Don't pigeonhole yourself into one spot.
Sure.
Well, and I think also part of it too is the time frame of the data, because we typically look at the 90 days.
Yep.
And what that looks like. If you look at a week, you might have had one post that did really well and then the other 5 didn't. So it's really important to look at it from a broad perspective and not
Or what else is going on.
Exactly.
If it's a
Yeah.
holiday, people might not be looking at it as much or maybe looking at it more
Right.
depending on that. And
Yeah.
don't let that skew your data by looking
Absolutely.
at such a short data set.
right.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great point, Maddie, is that we like to look at the data by quarter, and then after we can compare quarters. So after a client has been with us for a year, we can look at, okay, what happened last quarter, second quarter? Okay, it's a little slow seasonally because we live in a resort area. All right, this is making sense. The numbers traditionally dip in February. We aren't alarmed by that. But if it's your first February with a client and all of a sudden the numbers are really low, it's common to panic and you're like, oh my gosh. And the client's like, why am I not seeing more? Well, when we have that data, we can compare that, year after year, quarter to quarter, and see what's working. But when you look at such a small, clip of, time, it's easy to pigeonhole yourself and be like, well, the picture or the graphic did really well. I'm just going to do all graphics, but let's look at the long term.
Well, even if you do a great spot right there, like maybe there's a show or an event you went to and your numbers spike, you got to expect that downturn coming after that. And you can say,
Absolutely.
oh, what happened here? Be like, well, it was actually really good last week. That's why it went down. So comparing that over that longer time set kind of blends that out a little bit.
For sure. And I think anybody listening that looks at their own data, it's, when you see anything, when you're looking at data in Facebook and Instagram and you see red, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing very good. But I love what you just said, Erin, that we did really great last week because you went to a show and you had a big spike in followers, and then we're back to normal this week. And so now we see a negative number. So look at the whole picture and not just what happened in 1 week or 2 weeks or a month, but what's the big picture. So, but how do we, I know how we do it, but what would you recommend for somebody listening on what data points, what metrics are really important to pay attention to? Because there's so much vanity out there. Like we have some clients that really want to get to a certain number and they,
this is my follower.
I need to my competitor is this many, and I need to be there. And okay, well, there are things we can do. We can spend some money, we can do this, but what would you recommend that people really look at when it comes to numbers?
Engagement.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, engagement for sure.
Engagement, yeah.
That's what's going to feed the algorithm. And then they can also, there's tons of resources online for free that will show you the industry averages. So if you're brand new and you don't know where you should be, that's a good place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. And every industry has a different average for engagement rate too. You have some industries such as maybe it's the wedding industry. Their engagement rate might be super high because they're posting beautiful pictures and emotional events and certain things. And then you might have someone like is a sewer and drain company and their work's not that pretty always, right? And so your engagement,
sometimes that's a selling point.
that can be a big spike if you do it right. But at the same time, you have to look at where your industry fits and what their average rate for engagement is, and not to expect that your engagement rate's going to be the same as the next industry. So look for those resources and set that as kind of a benchmark for yourself. So how can a business increase their engagement rate?
Creativity.
Hire Keep It Real Social.
They're awesome, of course.
Yeah.
But getting engagement is part of being social, as far as like going out in your community, showing off what you do, showing off, how your product helps them versus just here's your product. You want to show how that's going to change for them, maybe some real life examples, some testimonials, case studies, like stories. You're a storyteller. You're trying to get people to relate to that. So
absolutely.
The more you can kind of touch them and say, okay, this can affect me. How can I find out more information?
Sure.
You're going to get people engaging that. Or, if it's, tagging the businesses or the people that are in those stories as you're doing that. And, you can work off their audience as well.
For sure. Any other pointers on increasing engagement? I know we have a lot of tactics we use at Keep It Real Social, but
I would say video, because video is so big right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, across platforms. So increasing the video content will help to, people have a short attention span on social media.
Yep.
So adding in that video aspect keeps them entertained, not for a long time, but in just enough time to get that engagement
and
up.
they're more likely to like, click, comment, and that's your engagement rate right there. And that is engagement. Engagement means somebody has liked, somebody has clicked, somebody has commented, somebody has shared. And those actions that somebody takes on a social media post influence your engagement rate. So if you're having a post and nobody clicks, nobody shares, nobody comments, nobody likes it, then your engagement rate's going to be 0. So you've got to always be thinking, how can I get someone to like? How can I get someone to comment? And those things come with asking questions, doing polls, tagging the people, having creative short content and reels, things that get people to stop the scroll.
And
Collaborators.
then collaborators. That's a good one. And going further and responding to comments. I feel like a lot of businesses just kind of leave it.
Sure.
Don't engage back, and that's really important.
Absolutely.
Right, have a conversation.
Yeah.
It's social media for a reason.
Yeah.
Be social. When someone goes to that effort to write a comment on them, or write a review, any of those type of things, you want to respond back to them, let them know they've been heard, and let them, engage back with them.
Yep. Yeah, definitely responding to the comments. And, there's lots of tricks and tips. And of course, you can do a lot of research to find out different tactics for different industries. But if you want people to, the like, the click, the comment, you need to be actively involved in your own social media platforms, or have an agency that's doing it for you, or a person on staff. You can't schedule it, sit it, forget it. Like you can't do that. And I yesterday gave a talk with a real estate agency, and it was interesting because a lot of people are super busy in real estate, and they want to, do their content on Monday and then go out and not check back again until next Monday. And if somebody leaves a comment saying, I'm really interested in this house, and you don't reply to that comment, that lead's gone. Like they're going to another real estate agent. So depending on what you're selling, it's just so vital for you to be paying attention to those comments.
You put a lot of effort into getting that engagement.
Yeah.
So why would you turn it off at that point?
Absolutely.
You want to engage those people back. You want,
for sure.
That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Is trying to reach those people.
It's social for a reason, just
Right.
like you said. Absolutely. So what are some challenges that you've had individually as digital media strategist for Keep It Real Social that you've had to overcome with a client? Because I think a lot, it's very easy to assume that we have 37 some clients, right? That we've gotten a system down necessarily, but every client is different, and every client comes with a new set of challenges because they're in a different industry, their story's different, the content that we're creating is different. Nobody's the same. So has anyone had a challenge here that's kind of unique, and how have you overcome it with a client?
I would say I have quite a few clients in the healthcare industry. And I think it's quite different when you're creating content for healthcare, because you have to follow those HIPAA laws and you have certain restrictions as to what you can say and what you can communicate with different customers. And I do a lot of reputation management, whether that's, looking over comments, responding to people. And I have to be very careful with the responses that I give to specific users because of those laws. So that's one of the biggest struggles that I would say.
And how did you overcome that struggle working with this client? Because I think a client necessarily comes to us and they want us to create great content to educate, entertain, generate leads, grow their email list, website traffic, all of these things that they really want to have happen. And they might not understand that there are some things that come with comments and direct messages. And so how did you overcome that with this client? Did you set up a set of, did you work with legal? Did you come up with a set of questions? How'd you overcome that challenge?
Major processes and procedures. Because I'm a very list-oriented person, so having those processes and procedures in place helped me a lot. And one of those was having the managers at the healthcare companies go through and review the content. And I also, for communication with specific users, if they were to message us on Facebook, I had a set of responses that I had to use legally. So that was super helpful to get those things in place so that I had more of a direction, and there is a little less creativity with that portion of it and a little less personability, I guess.
Sure.
But it's a part of, the privacy laws and things like that.
Yeah. And you have to be really careful. And I think that's one of the things that is a benefit to working with an agency is that they can help you overcome those challenges and work on those processes and those procedures and make sure that we're following the law and that in the end, it's protecting the end user.
Right.
Their client who is purchasing or using their services for healthcare or seeing them for healthcare related things. And we want to make sure that we're conscious of protecting the consumer as well. So not just building a great business for our client, but
Right.
Well, another aspect too is managing expectations. When a client comes in and they want to have a certain amount of followers or a certain increase, being able to table that and say, hey, this is what is going to be common. If you're seeing growth too hard, then that may be out of the norm. So don't expect that every time. That could be because of a show or something.
Yeah.
So, some of those difficulties are really trying to manage people's expectations. Like,
absolutely.
I want to have 1 million followers, like everybody does. Sure, of course.
Sure.
But what's realistic for your industry and your clients?
Yeah.
And what can you handle for the
what
area?
can you handle? Exactly. Yeah. And I think what's good for listeners to realize is that, for growth, and most businesses can expect like a 1 to 3% organic growth, right? And that means putting in no money, just great content, organically engaging, building that platform organically.
Right.
And then if you want to put money into Facebook or Instagram or Pinterest or Google Ads, you might grow at a 5 to 7, maybe 10%, depending on how much money you're going to give the platform. But you have to be realistic on those, what's actually attainable and fits your budget.
Well, and what fits your demographic too? Are you
Sure.
a small local company that is trying to reach small local crowd, or are you in a city, or are you global? What's your audience, and what do you expect to get out of the social too? Is
For sure.
a little bit of managing that expectation.
Yeah.
You're not going to have 1 million followers if your clients are all local and you live in a small town of 5,000
Absolutely.
people.
And if you do have a population of 50,000 in your community and you have 1 million followers, are they really your buyers? Are they the people going
They're
to
not
come?
converting.
Yeah. Are they
Right,
going to
what's a
convert?
conversion?
Like, what is really realistic? Because we've had the issue where we've taken over client accounts and they've had huge followers and they weren't real followers. Right. They had bought
And then
followers.
it goes back to statistics too. You're watching your analytics drop, and you're like, "Well, those weren't really people."
Those bots
Right.
are falling
Yeah.
off. Yeah. So don't buy followers.
Yeah,
if you're
don't do
listening.
that.
Don't buy followers.
Don't buy followers.
It's
Lesson.
not helping you.
It's not helping you, and it's definitely going to screw up your numbers. Like, I mean, we took a good year to get numbers back to normal based on getting rid of all of the fake followers.
Well,
and
isn't
bots.
it like 3 to 5% of your audience sees your content somewhere in there?
Yeah.
So if you have all bots, how many real people
real
are even
people
going
are
to
seeing?
see
Yeah.
the post?
Yeah. So if you think about that, if you have 100 Facebook followers and fans, 3% out of 100 is what? Like 3 people? Right? So, I mean, and then if you have
I hope they're not bots.
I know. So, you just want to be conscious of that too. So don't buy the followers. But and we work with a lot of companies of all different sizes. Some come to us and they come with beautiful brand kits. They've worked with a branding agency, or they had someone on staff at some time, or they're a new company coming to us with a beautiful brand kit. But how do you, handling a multitude of different clients, make sure that there's brand consistency across the channels for a client?
Well, using the brand kit, obviously.
If they have one.
If they have one. And then something that I like to do when I'm specifically with the copywriting, I like to get in that headspace of that client's voice and run with it because if I'm switching from one client to another, the voice might bleed together. So I try to stick with one client for a longer period of time to to really hone in on their
Sure.
voice.
Yeah. No, and I think that that's a great tip, is to make sure if you are managing, if you're a social media manager listening and you manage multiple clients, you are taking on the voice of that client. And so if you're constantly switching from, okay, now I'm going to be really professional and I'm, working on a healthcare client, and now I'm going to be witty and working on a restaurant who likes to be, a little cheeky. You can't, it's like a split personality. You can't do that. So staying focused on one client at a time as much as you possibly can, as we know that's not always possible. I kind of want to take not really a break, but I want to pause the question for a second and kind of ask, how many clients individually are you each managing? I know the answer to this, but the audience doesn't know. So start counting on your fingers, pop quiz. But how many are you managing, and what are their industries? Because it's not as though you're managing everybody in the same industry. They're pausing. They're thinking.
We're counting
the
on our
clock
fingers.
is ticking. Yeah.
I think I have 6.
Okay.
Oh.
I think I have 8.
And it's a range.
Yeah.
Septic, sewer, educational,
Healthcare. You have a healthcare client.
Cars.
You have an auto. Yep.
Auto. Let's see. Wine.
Yeah.
Wine.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a range.
Yeah.
It's all over the place, really.
Okay. What about you, Maddie?
I think I have 8, sometimes more, because I do work with a publishing company teaching authors how to use social media to promote their books. So some months I'm working with 4 authors, some months I'm working with none. So, and my clients vary from healthcare, wine, all over the place.
Yeah.
Authors, yeah.
Yeah. So a very wide range, which I think makes everybody here very flexible. And So what about you, Megan?
I think 8's my number, and then I've got healthcare, restaurants, a nonprofit, which is a little bit different too.
Yep.
Those all my
Restaurant. You have restaurant. You have 2 restaurants. 3
Well,
restaurants. 3 restaurants.
2 restaurants and a bakery.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Do you find that it's easier to stick to one niche, or you like the variation?
I like the variation.
Yeah, I love the
Okay.
variation.
Because if all you were doing was healthcare, you'd be like,
my gosh.
oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If all you were doing was wine, you'd be like, what? You need something else.
Sometimes I tell you if I need just like a break or to, be
Yeah.
a little witty, have
Can
a
you
little
take some
fun.
pictures for me?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Because some content is a little more dry to create, and some is just, you can be a little more creative, cheeky, have a little more fun with
I think
it.
that refreshes your creativity a little bit.
I
Let
agree.
you go wander a little bit, so you're not like stuck in that one spot.
Yeah.
You can really kind of play around a little bit and keep it fresh.
Absolutely.
And keep it so it's not as repetitive, because we're seeing that content more than anybody is seeing
Yep.
it, and we're seeing it all at once. So a customer on Facebook may see it, once a week or a couple times a week,
Sure.
but we're seeing so many of it that, you can get a little stuck in that, and it helps to
Yeah.
kind of pull away from that and be able to
Stuck
work
in a
on
rut,
another client.
for sure. Yeah. So thinking with that in mind, on average, everyone here is like 6 to 8 clients. How do you stick with that brand? Like you gave the example, Megan, of making sure I try to work with one client at a time so that I'm keeping with that brand voice. And that's something Keep It Real Social does, is we give all of our clients a client voice survey, so we have an idea of what they're comfortable with. Oh, we like being cheeky. We always want to be, sophisticated or more luxury focused. This is our tone.
Or what celebrity voice would you envision
Yeah,
for
what
your
celebrity
client?
voice would you like us to write in? Like, those types of tones. But how do you make sure you're carrying that brand consistency through for all of your different clients in the different niches?
I think a lot of it is getting to know your client as much as possible. And the more you're engaged with your client, the more you're interacting with the owners or managers, whoever your contact is there, The more you kind of get that voice, the more
Yeah.
you kind of you're part of that company at that moment. you
Yeah.
know? So that really helps with keeping
Well,
the
and I
voice.
think part of it too is Keep It Real Social. We have a very extensive onboarding process.
We do.
Where we really get to know these businesses. So I think with the time that we have to get to know these business owners and also on our end do competitor analysis and look at different hashtags, it gives us a good chance to move from a good spot and establish that voice in a way.
Yeah, that voice for sure. Yeah. And I know everybody here, especially if if brand kit is supplied, we are 100% following that brand kit from the fonts, where the logo is placed, the logo that we're using, the colors, everything. But some people come to us with a pretty much nothing, right? Like they're a mom and pop business. They had their logo developed in the 80s by their aunts, uncles, cousins, brother, whoever. Like, it's that type of tale. And so sometimes we don't have a lot to work with.
Well, it's helping them find their voice. They don't know what their
Yep.
voice is. So you've got to kind of help pull those questions out. Like we were saying.
that's why we're here.
What's your celebrity voice? Like, what would
Yeah.
you envision it as your ideal voice?
Yep.
Or, what do you identify you with? Things that really kind of pull them out and they've got an idea in their head. It's
Sure.
a matter of pulling that out of their head and explaining it. And the more questions you have and the more times you do it,
Yeah.
I think it gets a little bit easier each time.
Yeah. And the more you engage with that client.
Yeah.
And then the more that you talk to them, you are actually able to create almost like your own type of brand kit. So
Right.
if you talk to a client and you're onboarding them, you go in and you create these templates and you say, okay, here's the different types of content that I think would be really well for them. And then you work off of those templates. They're going to change.
Sure.
But using those.
And then communicating back to them
Right,
too,
right.
as you're creating the content and refining that as
Yeah.
you go. Work
What
with
do you
your
like?
client.
What
Yeah,
don't you
just-
like? Yeah.
We're not like talking to you in the beginning and then disconnecting,
Right.
keeping that engagement going where we're going back and forth
Yeah.
and saying, oh, I would answer this a little bit different or, change these pictures a little bit. You refine your brand
Sure.
as you go.
So for someone listening that's a small business owner and they don't have a brand kit, they're like, what is a brand kit? I'm going to Google right now to see what a brand kit is. That's okay. Google what a
We
brand
can
kit
help you
is. We
there,
can
too.
help you there too. But if you're a small business and you're trying to do it all yourself, what advice do you have for these small business owners in regards to how important it is to be consistent on social with branding? Is it important? We think it's important, but why? Someone listening, tell them why it's important.
Recognition.
Okay, recognition.
If you see a black apple, what do you think of? Apple products.
Yeah.
It's all about the repetition and
I'm a little older. I
consistency of
see
everything.
the multicolored one.
Aaron's got an old MacBook and
But it's just the recognition and the consistency of it. If
Yep.
people see it multiple times on social media, then it will automatically register in their mind, oh, this is,
Yeah.
this company.
Yep. They start to equate your logo, your brand colors, your tone, all of that with you, your business, your company, your voice. I have a great example. We have a restaurant that we don't represent in Northern Michigan, but they are witty, cheeky, funny, kind of borderline raunchy.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
We have a bar in Northern Michigan that's kind of the same, and
I know
it's
the
their
bar you're talking about, but not the restaurant.
it really, it's coming from them. You expect it, and I actually go to their Facebook feed to see what the heck they've posted. And I'm like, what? Oh my gosh, they're such good writers, and I'm like, they're so funny, and you equate that now with their restaurant and their bar, and you're like, all right, I like these people.
I know the bar too that you're talking about. They follow through too inside the restaurant. So
Yeah.
that brand isn't just like an online persona for them. That is literally their brand.
Yes.
When you go in and you look at the menu, it is fun. And
Yeah.
cheeky and,
Yeah.
they play at the tourists a little
Yep.
bit where we're at.
100%. So it really is that recognition and carrying that brand from the face online, the face on your website, to how you talk, to it being carried into when you walk into that facility or establishment, that brand carries through. So yeah.
So being authentic.
It's being
part of your
authentic.
brand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really hard. Like if you go to social media and you are like always using the color red, and then all of a sudden you see hot pink, it doesn't match.
No.
A quick shout out to our sponsor, Keep It Real Social, an award-winning marketing agency. They're not just marketers, but storytellers, making your business shine. Thanks to Keep It Real Social for empowering us and our listeners in the digital world. For your digital marketing solutions, check out keepitrealsocial.com. Back to Small Biz Big Wins for more insights and inspiration. The next question I'm dying to know, and I think I'm going to know everybody's answer, but I would love for anyone listening to hear, what emerging trends are you seeing in the digital media space that they aren't going anywhere? And so if you're doing your own marketing, it's time to get on board.
AI.
That's what we all say.
AI.
In one aspect or another. I mean, whether you're talking about voiceovers or photos or editing or content writing. I mean, there's so many aspects that it's going to be touching at this point.
Absolutely.
And it just gets better and better and better. It's not going away.
It does.
I attended a seminar fall of last year, and I just went to one a few days ago, and they were bringing up different things.
Yeah.
So it is changing all the time.
Yeah, at such a rapid pace, which is really hard for the average business owner that is running their business. They're making pizzas, they're opening and closing the shop to keep up with these trends and what they're just trying to pay the bills, like to keep up with how to use these AI tools for marketing.
Well,
How do you do that?
We were talking about one earlier that you were mentioning about using AI to help respond and to keep that engagement up.
Yeah.
To respond to common questions that you may get on your social
Absolutely.
media, so you can just quickly DM them back.
Yep.
With menus or specials
absolutely.
or common questions, or point them to the right departments and stuff that they
Yeah.
need.
Where do you see AI going in terms of it helping or hindering small business?
I think it's definitely going to lose the authenticity of it, and I think it's going to kind of redirect people back to, what is it that makes you unique. I mean, I don't want to hear the AI
Sure.
tell me that, because one, it could be wildly inaccurate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, but we want to see what makes you unique, what makes you you, and the AI might not be able to pull that out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that AI is a powerful tool, but I do think that consumers right now are really craving authenticity. The real pictures of a bald head do the best, compared to just like an AI graphic or an
Heads
AI
up, bald
photo.
guys.
Yeah. Heads up, bald guys. Yeah. But Megan, do you like bald guys? But no, I think you're right. Versus using AI to suddenly put a head of hair on somebody, like just be you.
Yeah.
Post
Right.
like the real pictures of you. Like
Yeah.
post the real pictures of your business, the behind the scenes, like the AI for the AI for photography is crazy, like what it can do, and for art. But if you're only using that, then you're not painting the picture of your business.
And that's not to say don't use it. It's an
100%.
amazing tool. It can
For
save
sure.
you tons of time. It can create lots of idea generation
Sure.
spots. So don't shy away from using
No.
AI, but use it responsibly. Use it as not your crutch, but use it as something that helps you, gives you an advantage or a time saver.
Yeah.
Exactly what you said, an idea generator. I think that's one of the things that people, they have this pre-idea that, AI is copy paste. You type in what you want, it pulls out something, you put up the social media post. That's not at all. Because if you read what ChatGPT puts out, it sounds like a robot.
Right.
So like you said, you're losing that authenticity. So
Well, and I think we've all seen it enough where you can identify it.
Oh,
we
we
can look
yeah.
at a post and
Yeah.
see half the time if
We
it's
just
created with
read one
AI.
today in the car on our way down of a restaurant that had posted something, and I read when you read it out loud, I was like,
Not while I was driving.
but I read it out. When you read it out loud, right away that is not
Right.
like a
I would-
person typing that.
I would almost rather see a post with like spelling and grammar errors in it and know that it's real, like from a business owner or from someone
I
that.
want to see that. Not on my post.
No, not on my post.
Not on Keep It Real Socials
No.
post, but on a
But from a business owner, I'd rather, because
Right.
then I know it's authentic.
You're giving AI ideas
Yeah.
now. They're going to
Yeah.
start misspelling things
Yeah, they are gonna
listening.
start
just to
moving.
make it look
Yeah.
authentic.
Absolutely. So if you're going to use AI, ChatGPT for your business, it's really important to use it to generate ideas. It is a tool in your toolbox. Just like
Right.
you build a house and you use a hammer, you also use a million other tools, and you can't expect that hammer to build a beautiful house. You have to do a lot of other things. You need the people, right? You need, the talent behind it. You need the creative ideas. You need all of that. So it's a great way to rewrite content. I love it for when I'm creating emails and I need subject lines. I can paste an entire email into ChatGPT and say, give me, 10 short subject lines. Do not use emojis. Like, I can be very specific because you have to be very specific if you want good results out of ChatGPT. And it gives me some great ideas. And then I can use that entire subject line, or I can like, oh, I like a little bit from this and a little bit from that. It sometimes makes when I'm stuck. And I'm like, I need some ideas for this, or I wrote this way and I don't know, I don't really like it. Maybe you could rewrite it for me and it gives me a fresh perspective.
Right.
But like, I put my first and last name in and asked for it to write a bio for me. I really liked that Summer Pocat, but that wasn't Summer Pocat, right?
Right.
It's terribly inaccurate.
I've tried it for certain things, and it sounds very confident when it gives you completely wrong information.
Yeah.
So don't rely on
Yeah.
that. Use that as you can use that as a jumping point, especially if you're stuck or you're in a
Sure.
rut. It's a great tool to use. Like
Yeah.
you're saying, it's not something that you should use whole cloth.
100%. Yeah, check it for its accuracy. So, for a small business owner listening, what advice do you have for them if they're doing it themselves, or they have someone on staff, or you're a social media manager listening? What advice do you have for somebody to up their game, up their digital presence, to do well on social media in 2024?
Be authentic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
be authentic for sure. Start small.
It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent and being authentic. Show the real process. Show the picture, and it doesn't have to be perfectly curated. If it's actually showing off what's real,
Yeah,
that makes a big difference.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And
And
I
don't
like
be afraid to get in front of the camera.
Yeah,
Yeah.
capture that stuff as it's happening. Don't always rely on like setting up a photo shoot for your products. If you have a truck show up, get a video of it, get a picture of all the boxes. Like that's what people want to see.
Yeah, the behind
Show your
the
delivery
scenes.
people. Show the people behind the scenes that are making your products happen.
Yeah.
That are making your restaurant, your business. Show your employees off.
What
show-
makes you unique?
Yeah, what makes you unique? People identify with people. So I mean, it's social media. We're there to see other people and see what's going on, and
Yeah.
what they're doing, and don't be afraid to get in front of the camera. You don't have to be, the Hollywood superstar to be on there.
Absolutely.
Like it's just regular people. Just be yourself and be on there
Yep.
and be present.
Well, and I think that's why, if we look at the history of social media and reality television, whether you like reality television or not, I am a reality television junkie, but people like to watch other people's lives.
Yeah.
They do. That's why they go to social, and some of us like to see what other people are eating or where they're vacation or what they're doing. You can say you don't like it, but you're still following them and scrolling, right? Like, so it's the same. It's just human nature.
Right.
People want to see what other people are doing, and they also want to connect with other people. And
Yeah, it's that connection.
yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. And so if I see a small business owner and I see that they have 4 kids and that they're working hard and it's family owned, and I start to connect with them. I start to want to support them versus all I see is a pretty picture of their pizza, for example. Like, I want to see the behind the scenes,
Right.
because I want to support them. I want to,
Well, and that's the thing. You're supporting a friend at that point.
Yeah.
You almost feel that sense of friendship to them.
You do.
You have more of a connection, and you want to support your friends. like
because
that. So,
you put a face with that product, that service, that business, which is difficult for some of your clients, Maddie, in the healthcare industry that are really large companies, that it's a little bit tough to do that. But what you can do,
Even smaller companies with
Yeah.
within the healthcare space, it's a
Yeah.
more personal environment.
yeah, but you can start to highlight the staff, the testimonials, the making the people using the products and the services kind of come to real life. I think that is a really big thing too.
Well, and from a healthcare perspective too, that helps you feel more comfortable as a patient coming into that place. So like, oh, okay, I've seen that person online.
Absolutely.
I've read their background, or I've seen them doing these things. It just makes you more comfortable.
Yeah.
You might be nervous going in for a procedure or something like that. So all those things kind of
Yeah.
help personalize that
Right.
that client to you.
We could definitely talk for another hour, but we have another podcast to record. So I want to ask you 2 more questions. And one of the last questions is, what do you think is the hardest part of your job as a digital media specialist? I mean, you're juggling a lot. You're working with a lot of different clients in technology that's constantly changing. So what's the hardest part for you? If you're watching on YouTube, you can see their faces. They're like, my
It's
boss
all
is
easy. I
asking
do
me
this
this
all the time."
question. But
I would say for me personally, I do have clients that are located in northern Michigan. With me not being in the area all the time, that does make it a little difficult to go out and get those photos last
Sure.
second, make sure I'm there for specific events and things like that. So I would say that's one of the harder parts of my job. But when I do come up, I make it a point to go and see
Absolutely.
those clients, make sure, they know that I'm still there.
absolutely.
Because even though I'm not there,
Yeah.
I'm still there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you have a team behind you that,
Right.
you couldn't attend an event recently. So we had a photographer there, a videographer there. I was there, right? So we make sure that the client is never suffering because you're 3.5 hours away. But I can see how that is a struggle for any remote employee, whether it's working for Keep It Real Social or whatever, is that sometimes being remote has its benefits and sometimes it has its drawbacks. So
Right.
that's for sure. What about you, Aaron?
I think just kind of keeping your customer engaged, keeping them to make sure that, they're involving you. You're an extension of their company. You're not a completely separate entity. We want them to think of us as part of them.
Yes.
So making sure that they include us in everything and they don't shy away from the cameras. Like,
Yeah.
we're here to show your story. We're
Yeah.
here to tell your story and show off what you do. So get in front of the camera, and
For
trying
sure.
to convince them to, give you that content.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them don't always want to be in front of the
I
camera.
know.
But,
That
that's
is
the
hard.
story we want to hear. So,
Yeah.
trying to convince them to, don't be so shy.
Yeah, don't be so shy. And sometimes I think that comes with longevity with the client.
Right.
And the more they begin to know you and trust you and you've worked with them, they're a little more comfortable. They've earned, your trust and they're like, okay, Aaron says I should do this. I'm gonna try it, right?
Show off that bald head.
Yeah, show
Right?
that bald head. Yeah, for sure. Megan wants to see your bald head. Oh my God, poor Megan. Poor Megan. You're gonna all of a sudden get all these Facebook
I know,
messages.
all
Your
these bald
Instagram is
guys
gonna light
texting me.
Oh no. Okay. What about you, Megan?
The hardest part for me is remaining flexible for last minute changes. That can be tricky. Client communication is so important. And if they don't communicate things till the last second, that can be so hard to push out the content that they want.
Absolutely.
You've got stuff scheduled.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
got
I mean, we
ideas
can make
already
it happen,
ahead of
but
time,
it does.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
That
for
is
sure.
that is a really big challenge for any social media manager. Anybody in the digital space when you're working with clients is communication, and that you need the clients to tell you when there's changes or things are happening or their menus being altered or the hours last minute. We have a lot of in northern Michigan winters last minute, like we're closing because of the snow or the weather. And so we want to put that out there right away so that their customers and their clients don't get upset that they're
Right.
closed or, if they're going to have a special sale or anything like that. We need to be privy to that information so we can communicate it to their clients and customers and not make anybody upset. And so it is that juggling, like, okay, we like to, as an agency, have content scheduled out 2 weeks to a month in advance. And we know that there's pop-up for all of this stuff. Like, you can't be 100% scheduled. But when you have something and it's a Friday and they're like, yeah, we're actually closed on Friday. You're like, what? Like, you didn't tell me this, right? And maybe you're off that Friday too. And so it's like, okay, luckily there's a team to be like, all right, everybody, like, let's change this. But it is that constant, remaining very nimble.
Keeping
Very
the
nimble.
communication
Yeah,
open.
the communication
And,
and
it's,
being
and as
nimble.
much notice for that stuff.
Yep.
We want to go and take your pictures at those things.
Yeah.
So if they're happening and you didn't tell us about it, we want to know that so we can help you get those photos.
Yeah. So clients listening, please
Yeah.
keep the communication going.
Communication's
Let us
key.
know, right? And if you are working with a social media manager, please keep those lines of communication open because they want to do their job really, really well for you and your business. So one last question, and I ask all of my guests this question. What has been so far in 2024 or since you've been with Keep It Real Social, kind of one success or one exciting moment that you'd like to share?
Well, mine actually, I think, is getting the job here. So for those of you that don't know, I applied to Keep It Real Social twice before I finally got an interview. I was working in retail doing marketing, but kind of knew I wanted to transition and working toward my marketing degree. So I looked into local agencies. Keep It Real Social was the most authentic one that I saw.
Oh, thank you.
It really was. So I applied and you weren't hiring. And I waited a few months and applied again, got an interview, and it went fabulous. We talked for like an hour and a half, I think. It was a long time.
Yeah, so if you want a job, have some tenacity.
Yeah, don't be afraid to, don't let your pride stop you from.
She had, and I said that to her when we interviewed. I'm like, you've got some tenacity. Like you were good. Like, and she sent the resume and then she emailed a follow up and like, she was like, I'm going to get this job and I'm going to prove to you that I want it. And so please do that. If you want a job, go after it.
Go for it.
Go for it. So that's a great one. What about you, Maddie?
Honestly, I would say my win is within the past 2 years, the amount of growth that I've gone through, because I went to college for marketing at a 4-year college. And when I graduated, I started at Keep It Real Social a week after graduation.
Yes, you did.
And I realized how little I actually knew.
I think I
about
interviewed
marketing.
you and you were on the dorm, like in a dorm.
I was in my dorm.
Yeah, you were in your dorm. And I was like, well, let's do this.
So, I mean, they don't really tell you or teach you in college what exactly to expect and how to do certain things. It's more of like a general overview. So coming to Keep It Real.
Changing so
Yes,
quickly,
it
too.
changes so quickly. You don't know. I mean, my social media manager professor was 80 years old.
Right.
So
Whoa.
So coming into Keep It Real Social, I realized how little I knew. And then over the past 2 years, if I think back 2 years ago, I realized how much I've actually learned and progressed.
Maybe I should start having college students pay me their college tuition to work for me for 2 years.
You really should.
What
Dang.
platforms did that guy use the most?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook. There you go. There you go. That's a good one. I think a lot of us go through college and we come out and we're like, wow, like there's a lot of real world experience and stuff to learn. So that's a good one. What about you, Aaron?
I mean, just thinking about it on the spot, I mean, maybe like my 2-year anniversary today is a big win for me. I like that. I mean, 2 years at a place working with friends and, enjoying it every day.
Yep.
I think we have a good time. We joke around
We
a
do.
lot.
We laugh a lot.
We laugh a lot. We get together after hours and everything. So I think the anniversary is a big win for me today, especially.
I think it's a really good win. And so for those of you listening, so Aaron and I actually went to elementary school together. We did. We were school buds. And then Aaron moved back into town and opened a super successful playground, a bounce town, busybody bounce town, and indoor playground. Yes, had his own business, and COVID hit. And kind of that
not the business you want to be
not
in
the
for
business you
COVID.
want to go. Yeah. That kind of fizzled out, and we knew you were looking for a job.
My background's been in marketing and printing and design for for longer than I want to say, but since
Crazy, I know.
Since we were in high school, that's what I went to school for is in design and branched out from there. So getting to utilize that and do it with people I grew up with in a place that values the work-life balance and is a great place to work. Like that's a huge win.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Small Biz Big Wins, and for the team for driving down to Brighton, Michigan, and coming to the Speak Easy Podcast Network.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think it's been. I think it's a very, very beautiful space, and it's fun to not just have me behind the mic or just one guest. I have 3 guests, and that I get to kind of grill you, but also tap into your expertise as digital media specialists that are every day, doing this, learning alongside of me, learning alongside our clients about their businesses, their challenges. And for anyone listening that, as a small business owner, you're not alone. There are people out there that are learning, are experts in this space and are keeping up with the trends and the things happening. And so you can rely on them. You can reach out to them. And if you can't use their services, a lot of them, like Keep It Real Social, we have a podcast, we have our insights on our website, which is a blog that provides all sorts of free resources. We have free downloads. If you go to our the show notes, there is a link, sign up. We have free downloads for you. There are free resources out there for you to use, to tap into while you're trying to juggle your business and market it. And if you need help, Keep Real Social is here. So thanks again for tuning in.